Welcome to Baseball Biz. I'm Mark Herbert, your host, and with me today is none other. Oh, it's not Brandon today. We've got a great guest with us today, Mr. Nick Murawski of, that's right, you guessed it, best White Sox podcast there is out there. Good Guys Talk Back. I love that title, Nick. Hey, man, welcome to Baseball Biz. How you doing today?
Mark, thank you so much for the invite. Excited to talk baseball, excited to talk White Sox with you.
Man, it's great to have you here. I've been listening to your show for a while, and to me, I like it. You've got the fan perspective on your show. First, tell me, how long have you guys been doing this now?
This is our third season. We started winter meetings 2018, and for Sox fans, that was a critical offseason because we were supposed to be getting Manny Machado that offseason and Bryce Harper, and the drama that, unfolded over the weeks. And we got none of those. We got Yonder Alonso and John Jay. That was our big offseason, but we started it then. And, it's just been gradually growing. And with the season that the Sox are having right now, it's been a lot of fun to talk about.
Well, let's face it. I mean, you guys are division leaders, obviously, in AL Central, but above and beyond that, I don't think there's another division leader that has a 10-game gap between them and the next team beneath them. So you guys have been performing fantastic.
Yeah, it's we're at 10 games now. But I love the team. I love what the Sox have been doing. They've been doing it with starting pitching. They've been doing it with bullpen. However, you have to also look at the rest of the AL Central. There's no other team that has a winning record in the AL Central. So if you place the White Sox in a different division, we're not, I think, aside from maybe the NL East, right, we're not going to be leading any other division. So I don't want to discredit what the Sox have been doing, but it is a weak division that the Sox play in.
Nonetheless, you guys are doing, bang up job. You got a fantastic group of players out there. New manager, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, tell me about that. How do White Sox feel, with a new manager or an old manager coming back in?
I want to also get your perspective too, as an outside, just from an outside perspective. We were shocked. I'll speak for myself. I was shocked when I heard that the rumors in the fall, and then when he actually was anointed the job, a lot of Sox fans, diehards, thought A.J. Hinch was definitely going to be the man that was going to step in with the talented team that we had. But, after we kind of let the dust settle a little bit, and, look, Tony La Russa's got 3 rings. He's been away from the game, the dugout specifically, for 10, 11 years. But the guy has managed in a lot of different eras and a lot of different decades with a lot of different personalities. I think the big fear was, can he manage a Tim Anderson? Can he manage a Loy Jimenez or Robert? The way the game is trending, the bat flip, the personalities, the flair. And from what he has done with all of the injuries that we've had, how he's been able to get this team, just about 20 games over 500 here in late August with that 10-game lead that we were talking about. Yeah, it's our starting pitching. Yeah, it's our bullpen. But you also got to credit Tony La Russa. And now you got to say he's one of the top contenders for AL Manager of the Year.
Absolutely. I mean, the thing of it is, last year all did pretty good as far as your win-loss average. But before that, I guess you guys 300 in the 400s. So he's made some things strong this year. I mean, you've got a good team, but it takes a manager with a bit of verve. It takes a manager who's not always going to be popular, but it's got somebody who's going to sit down in the rules. And I'm always interested in Tony because, one, a fellow Tampanian, he's and seen him come up from Tampa. But I think, man, if you've been away from something for 10 years and you come back to it, is it like riding a bike? I don't know, but he's definitely.
Mark, he's made some mistakes this season, and he has, he's called himself out on it. He's been called out on it. And I think, he was also trying to learn what he has. And I think that's tricky for a manager that maybe hasn't been in the dugout for a while. It took him a little while to figure out how to use some of these guys. You got to credit the general manager, Rick Hahn of the White Sox, for giving the depth, giving these guys to Tony La Russa. They went out and they made the huge splash with Hendriks, which I think was definitely from Tony La Russa. He said, get me the best closer out there, because that's what Tony does. He almost invented the closer role, right? So
Right.
now, he had to figure out, well, how am I going to move all of these pieces? It's taken him some time. Guys are starting to get healthy now. But it's been a bit of a roller coaster of a year. And I think every fan kind of says that about a team that they invest in and day out. But hey, we're here, first place. And it really feels good as a Sox fan.
Well, that's great, man. I mean, I know I've been on seasons where my team's like, just struggling to stay in fourth and out of five. But it's great. And I said, I was a little concerned about maybe, I know there's been some controversy about him and the rookies. And just the other day, I think with your catcher, Nick, I see but Tony, he takes responsibility. I know there's some criticism of me the other day about pulling Craig Kimbrel out, and he answered that. He had his reasons, but
yeah,
I admire him for nothing else to step up and say, yeah, well, maybe that wasn't the best choice.
Yeah, that is an interesting dynamic. Kimbrel Hendriks. You've got Kimbrel, who's got 370 saves to his credit, now coming in and being asked to be an eighth inning guy. And there's a lot of talk among Sox fans in the media of, well, can you ask a ninth inning closer, a lockdown ninth inning closer, to move to an eighth inning role? Psychologically, what does that do I know Tony's having conversations with Kimbrel. That is going to be a delicate dance. Hendriks threw 40 pitches last night. And from what I understand, Kimbrel has got the ball in the ninth inning and maybe tomorrow if that happens. So, that's another Tony thing. That's on Tony now of how he's going to manage those guys. Because I have a feeling he got into Hahn's ear and said, hey, if we have a chance to get Kimbrel, bring him over here. I'd like to have that stock bullpen.
Well, and I don't, the nice thing for Kimbrel, I mean, if you're being traded, he doesn't even have to move his house or anything. Right, you've got a guy right across, right across the city. And guess what? And I know I had read some things about him and Liam Hendriks that their wives had actually become friends. Mm-hmm. And there was some of that long before. So anyway, I was real excited about seeing him. And there's always changes. Now, I'll quickly tell you about as far as with the Tampa Bay Rays. When I'm looking to say, well, who's going to be the closer? We've had a lot of guys who like Nick Anderson and some other guys who've done a fantastic job, but either through injuries or trades like with Diego Castillo, I was uncertain. But we've got a good bullpen. And one of those guys, one of my favorites, is Andrew Kittredge. This guy, he's killer. He practically had a perfect inning the other evening. He's just been amazing. But I want to getting back to the Sox fan, because that's the topic here. Wow. I'm looking at you guys. Also, Field of Dreams. Was that, did you make it? Did you get there?
I didn't make it out there. And I was listening to your guys' most recent episode, and the price tag was a little steep. But it was a joy to watch. As a Sox fan, to get national attention is it's shortcoming. We're playing second fiddle to the Cubs all the time. And, with the success that the Sox have been having this year, now getting on to some Sunday night baseball games, some ESPN during the week games, for that Field of Dreams game to come through. And they did an unbelievable job. Major League Baseball really did it up. And it was a shame the way that, Hendriks let that game slip. Ooh. But it was almost like he fell on a sword for Tim Anderson to have a coming out party, because without Hendriks blowing that, Anderson doesn't have that unbelievable moment that everybody in the nation, every baseball fan saw.
Yeah, I was like that too. I saw Hendriks in the dugout after that. And he's just like, oh man, you could see all the self-recrimination there. But like you said, it made that magic moment for you guys to come back out there, and Anderson and the rest, bring so much to it. And my gosh, speaking of Anderson, this guy continually amazes me.
Yeah.
I mean, when I saw him when he came here to Tampa and you guys played here last week, it was amazing to watch that man. As much as I'm a Rays fan, I'm a baseball player fan first. So when I see somebody like that, it's exciting. And pardon me.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he had 6 at-bats that game, and I can't even remember all that he did, but it was just his performance was outstanding.
He was he's the straw that stirs the drink for the Sox. He really is. Abreu would be the captain.
Yeah.
But Anderson is the guy that makes it all go. He was 3 for 6 that game, huge ninth inning home run, and then he went ahead in the 11th and had the go ahead RBI. Unfortunately, he didn't play, those second 2 games in that series, and he sat out the first 2 in this Toronto. Yeah, I think with the turf, Sox playing on turf in Tampa, then in Toronto. I think they're trying to rest his legs. I think they, and Anderson had a comment in the local media yesterday, and Anderson said, "Look, all eyes are on October. That's our goal, and if we have to rest right now, trading rest for wins almost in August, then we'll do that. But I think he's back in the lineup, tonight in Toronto, and." Boy, he is just electric. And the last few years, he's been up there in average, and he's getting very vocal. And, I really hope that, as Joe Buck said on the Field of Dreams telecast, he can be one of the faces, if not the face, of Major League Baseball.
Well, it is exciting to see him out there. I'm glad to hear he's coming back soon. I knew I was looking at the IL list. They had him on there for leg, but I think maybe it's just maybe his leg was bothering, but better to save him for postseason.
Yeah.
And I mean, with you guys with a 10-game lead in your division, why not?
Yeah. It's a 10-game lead. But any Sox fan will tell you that lived through 2005. We had a 15-game lead on the Cleveland Indians, in late August, and that thing whittled down to a game and a half. Before we, kicked it into a second gear the last couple weeks of the season, won the division by 6 games, and eventually we ended up winning the World Series. So yeah, it ended great for Sox fans, but it took years off of my life and a bunch of other Sox fans' life. So the 10-game lead is nice, but we still have 3 more with Oakland, 3 more with Boston. September is going to be it's going to be a tough road.
Well, I'm excited for you guys. I'm looking forward to seeing, you doing more out there. I did want to ask you, what's the catching situation like that there? 1, 2, none, 3?
Yeah, I know exactly. It's almost like in the NFL when you've got 2 quarterbacks, you don't have one, right? Yasmani Grandal, who's, he's our multi-million-dollar guy. He was our big free agent acquisition a couple of years ago. Good reports. He should be coming back maybe this weekend for the Crosstown series against the Cubs. Right now, we've got Zack Collins and Seby Zavala, two guys that, probably aren't even going to be starting on any team as a catcher. Both are young. They're still trying to figure out, you mentioned earlier, Tony really giving it to Seby Zavala in the dugout. It was a 3-0 pitch to Vlad Guerrero the other day, and it was middle. And Lance Lynn took some of the credit to that, but I think Tony also wanted to know, well, what were you doing, Seby? What did you call? Those are 2 guys that have come a long way. Seby more than Collins. Collins is really there for the lefty bat, not really the defense. But we're, as Sox fans, we're just, we need Grandal back. He's the guy. He is the guy that's going to take us to the promised land.
Well, I'm hoping he'll be back soon. Do you have is there any date on that? Is he still,
I think I've heard imminent. That's what I'm hearing, which doesn't give you a lot of clarity, but when you look at a couple other Twitter posts from a few other local journalists, it sounds, if you read between the lines, maybe this weekend. It's a big series against the Cubs at Sox Park. So that would be nice if he came back for that.
Well, looking across the American League right now as division leader, and we said whoever's in those positions right now for each one, who would you say would be most likely to be the wild card for the American League?
Yeah. Boy, the Yankees are playing really well right now. And I don't want to see the Yankees. We just don't match up well against them, but they are hot right now. It's a really tight battle between them and Boston. The East is again, aside from the Central, all these other divisions are pretty close. I don't think, Toronto obviously isn't going to win the division, but they're 5 games back of the wild card. I'm looking at Yankees as a team that is probably going to, I think is going to make a final push. Maybe it comes out of the East. Maybe both are coming out of the East. Maybe it's Boston and New York. I know Houston's got, an okay lead on what is it, Oakland out in the West, but I don't know, for some reason, those East teams, like it was tough going to Tampa, playing you guys. You guys got some hitters, man, and you got pitching. And I think we at Sox ended up going 3-3 against Tampa for the season. So anytime you get those types of teams that have the pitching and they have the hitting, that's what makes baseball so exciting, right? There's just, throw the cards, let them fall wherever they lie.
Well, exactly. I mean, I was thinking about the Yankees as well. The AL East, who knows where it's going to wind up? Somebody said, well, your Rays are at the top. I said, today. Yes, they are.
Yeah.
Today. I was talking with Brent Carty from the Carty Show about that. I said, yeah, absolutely, man. Who knows? But the Yankees, what? As of, let's see, today, we're looking at their 11 out of 11. The last 11 games, they have won all 11. If I read if they win one today, the 12 out of 12, it'll be a record that'll match one since 1961. So
yeah. And as just as a Sox fans, we're all looking at what the Yankees, we look at what other teams are doing. And I was shocked. No pitching for the Yankees. They went out and they got Rizzo, they got Gallo, Stanton looks healthy. Judges, I mean, they got thumpers, and that's maybe their MO is just, we're going to outslug you.
Yeah. And well, that was it. Cause I mean, both of those guys they brought in, they needed something to wake up their bats. I mean, they were suffering, before the All-Star game and before all the trades were done. And Aaron Boone was just getting kicked. He was getting killed. Now he can smile a little more. And Alex Cora is starting to have a little looking a little.
Yeah.
Forward.
Oh yeah.
But,
yeah.
But anyway, so that's some. I'm looking to see forward to what's coming with all that. But it's an exciting year, man. I mean, I'd like you to tell me a little bit more as far as good guys talking back on your podcast. What are some of the more recent podcasts or topics you covered?
Yeah, well, good guys talk back comes from a nickname that the Sox kind of gave themselves back in the early 90s when they went to the black jerseys, and they gave themselves the nickname "Good Guys Wear Black." And our longtime broadcaster Ken the Hawk Harrelson would refer to the Sox as the good guys when he would go to commercial break. Good guys up 3-2. So we just decided kind of a play on that. Good guys talk back. And we're local. I'm recording just blocks from the ballpark. I live in the neighborhood, and we try very hard as a podcast to keep it very fresh. So usually after every series, we will be recording that evening or the next day to recap. And then we like to look ahead. If I'm not at the game, I'm a season ticket holder. So if I'm not at the game, I am watching the game. My wife is extremely understanding and supportive, but my co-host and I, his name's Pat Hester. We went to college together. We've known each other for 20 plus years, just multi-generational, diehard Sox fans. I live by every pitch. That's not good for my health, but that is just how I'm wired. And, it's just eat, sleep, drink, baseball and the Chicago White Sox.
That's it, man. It's a true fan. In Tampa, I wish we had the fan base that a lot of other teams do. It was with the location of where we have our stadium. That's part of it. And part of it, I think, sometimes is kind of a transitory area. People come here, a lot of people on vacation, et cetera, but there's not really many native Floridians around here. And if you came from New York, if you came from Boston, if you came from Canada, wherever, you're going to be here for your team. I can tell you when I used to work at the stadium, we'd play the White Sox, and I can't tell you how many folks would come in from there. But you guys have a great fan base following, so I'm glad to see that. And again, talking about your show, who's one of the most interesting guests you've had on there?
We were lucky enough to have a guy by the name of Chuck Garfein, and he is a local personality. He's been the pre and post game on NBC Sports Chicago for a long, long time. He's been on that station since, I think, 2004. So just before the Sox won the World Series. and that was a big get for us. He, he's just one of those, everybody knows him in the Chicago area. He's at the Sox Fest. He used to be at the stadium kind of as like a man of the people, interviewing, folks that have all different kinds of crazy jerseys. He'd always spot the most obscure jersey he could find. He was a huge guest for us. Super nice, and obviously piped into the White Sox. So to pick anybody's brain that has the ability to cover these guys on a daily basis, journalists from the Athletic like James Fegan, Scott Merkin, who is the MLB.com Sox beat writer for a long period of time, to have these guys on multiple times, nice of them for us to steal their time. Those have been great gets for us.
Well, that's fantastic. And I want to tell you something about a project I'm working on here a little bit. Maybe we can find out more, but looking at who you guys have coming up, and like I said, you're in the still facing up the Blue Jays here for a couple more games. And then you got the Cubbies. Cubbies coming to visit you. And then the Pirates. So when you're looking at the rest of your schedule here, what do you think? Do you think it's okay, medium, hard?
Obviously, the Cubs a Cubs series always brings in the crowds. I mean, there'll be 40,000 at every single one of these games, Friday night, Saturday night, and Sunday's day game. Cubs have fallen on some hard times, obviously, but there's just something about that, it's going to be electric. But I think we can, win that series. I'm not worried about Pittsburgh. I'm worried about when we get to September. We've got 3 at Oakland, and we do not play well on the West Coast, especially in the Coliseum. We've got 3 with Boston at home. We've got 3 with the Angels. And then we have 5 games in 4 days against Cleveland in Cleveland, starting in late September. So that's, as a fan, I'm enjoying where we're at right now. But as you mentioned, a few minutes ago, it's like today we're in first place by 10 games, but talk to me in mid-September and see where I'm at, where my blood pressure is.
Oh, brother. Well, oh gosh. One thing, this is kind of off the line with some of these things we've been talking about, but something I'm passionate about is reading more and more about the minor leagues and seeing what's going on with some of these players. I know we're all one baseball now, but it's a challenge I think that every franchise has, and that's making sure that those young players that we're hoping to see come up, are being treated well now. So just a little bit on my soapbox for that. So it's one of those things I want to see get better. But I don't know. We're gonna try to reach out, and we're gonna try to do some shows here about that. Do you hear any feedback about the minor league teams that you guys have?
We've got AAA is in Charlotte, the Charlotte Knights, and then AA is Birmingham, the Birmingham Barons, and then we've got Winston-Salem. And we've had a couple great guests. James Fox is a wonderful guest who's very he is plugged in to what's going on in the minors, and he's great with drafts, and he gets down into the nitty gritty. I think my worry is equity is fair pay for these guys, and everything that they have to go through. And we had a guy on our team early this year that made a lot of noise nationally, Yermin Mercedes. And he had a wonderful April and part of May. And he was an older rookie. I think he might've been in his late 20s. And fought and clawed his way up and earned a spot, with his bat. He's a catcher, but it was really his bat that kept him and helped him make the team. Well, he fell flat, and he got he was sent down, and there was just some real psychological stuff. He announced his retirement on Instagram, and then the next day he said he was coming back, and I think it was just to speculate. These players, they fight so hard to get up to the big leagues. And then, this is what they've wanted. And then they're told, what, not yet. And some players, is there enough, wellness, mental health, for, care for some of these players that that has got to be difficult to be shipped around, bounced around. Now you're here, and having to deal with that, especially when your family is probably somewhere else.
It's a challenge. And for somebody like him, who's been in the minors for so long, it's, getting there and staying there. It's two different things. It's tough on him. I know that some teams do have counselors and that sort of thing, but nonetheless, that is a hard road. And when you think that if you enter into the Major League Baseball and you're there, if you're there for a whole year, you're making $500,000. That's it. But I mean, that's decent. But what are you paying those guys? What, 10,000 maybe in the minor leagues? Or less. And I'm hoping that MLB wakes up on this. Oh, forgive me.
I agree. I agree with you.
I get a little passionate about that. But you guys, you've got a great team. You get a great outlook for what's going to happen the rest of the season. And I'm excited for this, for the White Sox, man. It's fantastic.
It's been a long time coming. They tore this down, and by they I mean the owner Jerry Reinsdorf's blessing and Rick Hahn, our GM. This was the fall of 2016. We traded Chris Sale to Boston for Michael Kopech and Yoan Moncada, and then the dominoes started falling, with the hope that maybe 2020, 2021. We might see some postseason play. This team has roots in history back to 1900 or 1901, depending on who you talk to. If you want to think about a charter member of the American League or just generally as a baseball club. In that history, Mark, we have never, as an organization, got to the postseason back-to-back seasons. And this could be the first time ever the White Sox go back-to-back. So it's good right now, but Sox fans have suffered. We've had some high points, but there's been a lot of low.
Well, I'm excited for you guys. Like I said, it's been exciting thus far. And what do we have? 5 more weeks, I think, until the postseason's here, if that. So looking forward to seeing what you guys, and Nick, keep up the good work with what you're doing there with Good Guys Talk Back. If people haven't listened, you can find them just about, I guess, on any podcast directory. And they can also find you on Twitter as well. Where's that at?
Yeah, you can find the podcast everywhere you find podcasts. We're on Twitter at Good Guys TB, and we've got a Facebook fan page. But we're cranking them out a couple times a week, and it's been a lot of fun. And
you got some good merch too, don't you?
Yeah, we got some great, comfortable, and affordable Good Guys Talk Back T-shirts. Yeah,
all right, well, that's fantastic. Well, I've been speaking today here with Nick Murawski from Good Guys Talk Back, and having a great time. Looking forward to seeing what's happening with the rest of the AL Central for the remaining of the regular year and postseason. So, Nick, thanks again, buddy, for joining us today, and hope to talk with you again real soon.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mark, for the invite. And who knows, we might see your Rays in the postseason. You never know.
All right, brother. Okay. Once again, I want to thank Nick Murawski from Good Guys Talk Back for joining us here on Baseball Biz, telling us everything about the White Sox. If you haven't checked them out, please do. You can find Baseball Biz on Twitter at @TheBaseballBiz. And if you got any comments, please go ahead and leave me those. Subscribe to Baseball Biz, like us, love us, subscribe to us, download us, and we'll be talking with you again real soon. Special thanks to X-Take RUX for the music Rocking Forward.